All living things will eat. So the fourth characteristic that differentiates between living things and non-living things is eating. That means all living things eat. So all living things eat. So we have already discussed in the previous episode that all living things will eat food. So if the living things will eat food, they will get energy. If they does not eat, they does not get energy. If they don't have energy, they cannot move. And if they eat food for so many days, they will die. So in this way, every living thing, that is human beings, plants, birds, animals, every living thing will eat. And they will move from one place to another place for getting their food. After getting their food, they will eat. So after eating, only they will get energy. So energy will get from the food. So every living thing will eat. So we will do so many types of works every day. So from where you will get energy for doing that works? So simply by eating food. So if you do not eat food, so you cannot do any work. So you can easily tired. So for doing works or for getting energy, so every living thing should have to eat. But whereas non-living things does not eat. For example, if the pen does not eat. So if you place a mango, a piece of fruits, or if you place a rice, or if you place a chicken near the pen, so the pen does not eat. So not only pen, all non-living things like computer, TV, fridge, AC, and lorry, car, buses. So all non-living things does not eat food, and they does not require food. So whereas all living things eat food because they should get energy for doing different types of works in their life. So this is the fourth characteristics which differentiate between living things and non-living things. So, and the next another one is, so all living things need food. That means all living things reproduce. So all living things eat food. So if living things does not eat food, they will die. So how can you prove that all living things eat food, and if they does not eat food, they will die? How can you prove it? Here we can prove this by using a simple activity. So by using this simple activity, we can prove that if living things does not eat, they will die. That means living things should eat food for their existence. So take a small activity. So for this activity, we require 2 jars of same size. So for this activity, so we should require 2 jars of same size. So take 2 jars of same size, so which are made up of glass. So take 2 glass jars and place 2 ants inside it. So take 2 jars which are made up of glass and place 2 ants in it. And place some food in one jar, and the second jar does not have any food. So place food like sugar, so something, place some food in one jar and does not place any food in the second jar. So observe the ants for 2 or 3 days. So if you gradually observe the ants after 1 or 2 days, the ant which is present in the jar having not food will die, and the ant will live because in the first jar there is a food for it. By eating food, it will exist. So by using this simple activity, we can prove that So animals should need food and they eat food. So in the first jar we placed food, that's why the ant becomes live and it does not die. And in the second jar there is no food, that's why the ant died in the second jar. So this is the simple activity. So by using this simple activity we can prove that all living things eat food. So next one is all living things reproduce. Okay, the next characteristic which differentiate living things from non-living things is reproduction. So all living things reproduce. So all living things reproduce. So that means all living things gave birth to their new ones. So that means all living things produces their offsprings or their new babies or their new small kids during their lifespan. So this process of producing their own kind or the process of producing their offsprings or the process of producing their own young babies is called reproduction. So all the living things, that is human beings, birds, animals and plants, all living things will reproduce their new ones. So for example, if you consider hens, if you take for example, if you take hens, so it will lay eggs. So after some days, these eggs will be converted into small chickens or small chicks. So after some days, chicks will be converted into again big hens. So in this way, the hens will reproduce their new ones by using their eggs. So not only hens, all the birds, all the birds will reproduce their new ones with their eggs. And if you consider dogs, they will reproduce their puppies. So they will directly give birth to their new one. So for example, if you consider animals like dogs, cats, rats, and most of the animals gave birth directly to their new one. For example, dogs reproduce puppies and the puppies are the smaller ones which looks like similar to the dogs. So in this way, all the living things reproduce their new ones to continue their race. If they does not reproduce, their race will be extinct and after some years, so no living thing will exist on this earth. So for the existence of the earth or for the existence of their race, all living things have to reproduce. So in the same way, if the cats are considered, the cats also produces kittens. So kittens means small cats are called kittens and small puppies are called dogs. So in the same way, all the animals directly gave birth to their new ones. So this process of producing their new ones, that means their young babies, is called reproduction. So whereas consider human beings, a woman will give birth to their kids. So a woman gave birth to their kids. So this process of producing their new one by using the help of seeds or eggs is called reproduction. So if you consider plants, so plants reproduce their new ones with the help of seeds. So if we plant a seed in the soil, then we will get a new plant which looks like it's a mother plant. So in the same way, the birds, animals, plants and human beings will reproduce their new ones to continue their race on the earth. Whereas non-living things does not reproduce. That means a pen does not produce its new one. That means the pen does not produce a small pen. In the same way, not only pen, in the same way, if you consider a book does not produce its new one. Because book is a non-living thing. In the same way, if you consider TV does not produce its new one. Because TV is a non-living thing. So, okay, now go to the next characteristic, that is breathe. All living things breathe and non-living things does not breathe. So the last characteristic is all living things breathe. All living things breathe. So this is the one of the characteristic which differentiate living things from non-living things. That is, all living things will breathe, whereas non-living things does not breathe. That means the things which breathe can be treated as living things, and the things which cannot breathe can be treated as non-living things. So all of us know every living thing, that means human beings, birds, plants and animals, all the living things will breathe. Because all living things will need oxygen for existence. So they will breathe oxygen. They will breathe oxygen for their existence. For example, if we consider human beings, all human beings breathe oxygen. So all human beings breathe oxygen with the help of lungs and nose. So all human beings breathe oxygen for their existence. So all human beings need oxygen to become to exist. So if there is no oxygen, or if the human beings does not breathe oxygen, they cannot exist. They will be dead. So every human being, not only human being, both animals, birds and plants, all living things will breathe for their existence. For example, if we consider human beings, they will breathe oxygen through the lungs and nose. So they will breathe oxygen through the nose, and oxygen will enter into the lungs from the nose, and from the lungs the oxygen will mix with the blood, and the blood supplies the oxygen to all the parts in our body. That is to heart, to brain, to legs, to hands. That is the oxygen mixed with the blood, and the blood will supply the oxygen to all the organs present in our body. Then only the organs will work properly in our body. So all human beings, not only human beings, the birds, animals should breathe. So they should require oxygen. So for the oxygen they will breathe through their nose. So the oxygen enters into their lungs, and from the lungs it will mix with the blood, and the blood will carry the oxygen to all their body parts. So then only the body parts will work properly. So then only they will move, and then only they will become exist. So if there is no oxygen, they cannot breathe and they cannot exist on the earth. They will be dead. So all the living things will breathe, but the way of taking oxygen, that means the way of breathing is different in different living things. That means different living things takes oxygen with the help of different organs. For example, if we take human beings, they will take oxygen through lungs. So lungs are the respiratory organs. So lungs are the respiratory organs human beings, and also most of the animals and most of the birds have lungs as the respiratory organs. That means through the lungs they will breathe oxygen into their bodies. And if you take fishes, so whereas in fishes they breathe oxygen with the help of their gills. So look at the picture. So in the picture it is a picture of a fish, and the picture showing the gills present in the fish. With the help of that gills, the fishes will breathe oxygen present in the water. So gills are the special arrangement which is in the fishes to breathe oxygen present in the water. So the gills allows only oxygen into their bodies but not allow the water into their bodies. So gills is the special arrangement in the fishes. So with the help of gills, fishes will breathe their oxygen. And whereas if we consider frogs, so frogs will breathe with the help of their skin and also nose. And if we consider snake also breathe their oxygen with the help of their nose, that is lungs. So in this way all living things will breathe oxygen, that means all respiration takes place in the help of different parts present in it. So in human beings, lungs are the respiratory organs, that means lungs takes the oxygen from their nose. Whereas in fishes, the breathing will take place with the help of gills, and in frog, the breathing will takes place with the help of their skin. So whereas non-living things does not breathe, they does not require oxygen. So for example, if you take pen, so it does not breathe and it does not require oxygen. So without oxygen, they can remain so many days or so many years. But whereas if there is no oxygen, and whereas in the case of living things, if they does not breathe, they will die immediately within seconds. So the non-living things does not breathe. Pen, pencil, car, bus, computer, TV, fridge. So all living things does not breathe. So this is the chapter living and non-living things in the first unit. So this chapter is completed.